Y'all, it looks like every single person in the music industry is clowning Drake extra hard right now because he just got smoked during his beef with Kendrick. But do y'all know who is really enjoying this beef? The Weeknd. Yes, if there was one person in Hollywood who hates Drake more than Kendrick, it's The Weeknd, because he has had a beef with Drake for a long time. Now, there were reports that The Weeknd might have been the one behind the drive-by shooting at Drake's house last year, and it looks like there is still a lot of animosity between both men. And when Kendrick won $5 grand for his diss track, The Weeknd immediately threw the mother of all shade at Drake. If y'all thought that the beef between these two was over, well, you have something is alive and well and messier than ever. So back when The Weeknd was still an underground artist trying to make a name for himself, Drake was one of the first major artists to recognize his potential. Their history goes way back, long before The Weeknd became a global superstar. Even in those early days, it was obvious that he had something special because of his unique sound. The haunting melodies and the raw lyrics made him stand out. People in the industry could already tell that he was destined for something big. But funny enough, it wasn't Drake who first discovered him. It was his close friend and longtime producer, 4040, came across The Weeknd's music, was instantly impressed, and introduced him to Drake, knowing he'd be just as interested. A different approach, they brought The Weeknd into their circle, worked with him, and gave him the support he needed as he started making waves in the industry. Even though he never officially signed to O, there's no denying that Drake and 40 played a huge role in helping him go from an underground sensation to a household name. But even though The Weeknd never officially signed with OBO, he and Drake continued working together, and Drake played a role in helping shape his career. One of the biggest examples of their collaboration was Take Care, Drake's 2011 album, where The Weeknd had a major influence. Not only did he contribute vocally, but he also helped write at least 4 songs on the album, bringing his signature mood. Where things got a bit messy, because for years Drake didn't fully acknowledge just how much The Weeknd contributed to Take Care. Fans had no idea the extent of his involvement until much later when it came to life. Let's just say Drake had no choice but to give The Weeknd his long overdue credit. Y'all remember him singing, "We're loving the crew, loving the crew, loving the crew." That was all The Weeknd. But despite that, their working relationship continued, and Drake was still very much invested in bringing The Weeknd into the OBO fold at this point. Though it was clear that The Weeknd was the star in the making, and Drake saw an opportunity not to just mentor him, but also to cash in. He knew signing The Weeknd would be a lucrative move, and he wasn't shy about making it happen. But The Weeknd wasn't just talented, he was strategic. While working closely with Drake and O, he took his time to observe how things operated behind the scenes. He noticed a reoccurring trend none of the artists signed to Dre's label had managed to break it into the mainstream or build truly successful careers. And despite being affiliated with one of the biggest artists in the world, they struggled to gain real traction in the industry. And that was a red flag. But this isn't unique to OBO. Though it's a common issue that signing to an artist-run label, especially when the headliner is still actively dominating the chart, balancing personal success with the responsibility of nurturing other artists is a difficult task, and very few musicians have successfully pulled it off. Most of the time, the focus naturally shifts towards the more established artists. Even the signs to fend for themselves. Labels run by major stars often provide exposure, but they don't always industry backing, and the clear Beyoncé co-signed her debut album only sold 10,000 copies in its first week and peaked at number 119 on the Billboard 200. And for an artist with that kind of support, those numbers were shockingly low, proving that even the biggest co-signs don't always translate to mainstream success. But even High, despite her rising popularity and strong social media presence, hasn't fully broken through as a solo artist in terms of chart success. While her solo songs have gained attention and performed well on certain Billboard charts, she has yet to land a song on the main Billboard Hot 100. That's pretty surprising, considering her fan base and the buzz around her music. But again, she signed to Beyoncé, an artist who is still very much focused on her own career. As much as Beyoncé may want to lift up the Bailey sisters, her own commitments naturally limit how much time and energy she can dedicate to developing them into household names. For The Weeknd saw this kind of situation from a mile away, and he understood That signing to OVO would likely mean taking the backseat to Drake's own career, which could slow down his growth as an artist. Rather than risk getting stuck in the shadow of a superstar, he made a different choice in 2012. He signed to Republic Records, a major label that had the resources and industry connections to fully invest in his career. And that decision gave him the freedom to carve out his own path. And his history has shown it paid off in a massive way. Well, Drake, of course, didn't take the Weeknd's decision lightly. In fact, he was very salty about it. He felt that after everything he had done introducing The Weeknd to a wider audience, collaborating with him, and giving him an amazing platform, the least The Weeknd could do was sign to O in Drake's mind. All that early exposure was a favor, and he expected some loyalty in return from his perspective. He had helped shape The Weeknd's career. And instead of sticking around, The Weeknd took that momentum and ran straight to a major label. Shortly after it was announced that The Weeknd was joining Republic, he tweeted, "You won't get away with just a thank you, you owe me in favor." Well, the tweet also came days after The Weeknd publicly thanked Drake for helping him with his career.
Motherfucking Drake. There be no motherfucking Weeknd. There be no EXO. So please, make some noise for my mentor, my brother, and my friend, Drizzy motherfucking Drake.
Drake wasn't just upset, he was big-moneted. He had already envisioned The Weeknd as his next big OVO star and was likely banking on making millions from his success. So when The Weeknd chose to go his own way, Drake didn't let it slide. He got petty fast forward. A few years in, The Weeknd found himself dealing with a breakup from his longtime on-again and off-again girlfriend Bella Hadid, and who was conveniently right there ready to swoop in Drake, almost as if he had been waiting for the moment. Drake wasted no time cozying up to Bella, and before long rumors started flying that they were seeing each other. It wasn't exactly clear how serious things got, but the timing was very suspicious, and it definitely looked like Drake. Well, The Weeknd caught the shade, and he replied in the song Lost in Fire, where he threw some insane shade back at Drake, and he said, "And I just want a baby with the right one. I want a baby with the right one, 'cause I could never be the one to hide, when I could never be the one to hide." Well, this was clearly a Drake diss with a Sunny-onus, when he was hiding the world from the kid and the kid from the world, and that whole thing. And he only came out to admit it because Push T outed him during their beef. But even though both Drake and The Weeknd tried to play it cool and do some subliminals and acting like everything was fine, anyone paying attention to the gossip could tell that they were still throwing shade at each other left and right. The tension, a whole lot of petty energy being exchanged. Well, the situation finally hit the boiling point just a few months ago, when The Weeknd made a major move by jumping on the track We Still Don't Trust You alongside A$AP Rocky, Metro Boomin, and Future. Now, here's where things got spicy because all four of them had some level of beef with Drake. According to Metro Boomin, Drake tried to pull some strings to block the release of the song, probably because he didn't want to see these artists who he's been beefing with linking up on a track. Metro tweeted, "I'm lame. But the first week after like that, you tried to blocky that radio. I've been sitting on this email for a month. Now just sparing you, oh you ain't like that record." He also hinted that, well, not long after that, We Still Don't Trust You dropped, things took an even darker turn. A mysterious shooting occurred at the home of The Weeknd's longtime manager Cash. Now, if you're familiar with The Weeknd's rise to fame, you know exactly who Cash is. He's been down with him from the start, and they go way back. This wasn't just some random manager, but someone that had been by his side through thick and thin. Thankfully, Cash wasn't hurt in the incident. But the situation was still serious. A security guard was shot during the chaos and had to be rushed to the hospital, and the details surrounding the shooting remain unclear, but the timing was definitely suspicious, especially with all the tension brewing between The Weeknd and Drake. But the police released a statement that said the victim, male, black, 37 years, was inside a guard shack when he heard several guns and discovered he had been struck. The suspect's 3 male. No further details. Fled from the location. Laughed, responded at, and transported into a local hospital in an unknown condition. Location 17,500 block of Jaden Lane Road, 1067, April 29, 2024, at 0225 hours. It was referred to as an home invasion. But the streets believe it wasn't an ordinary invasion, but an ordered hit. Well, less than 2 weeks after the shooting at Cash's home, Drake's house in Toronto was hit in what was called a drive-by. But here's where things get even more interesting. A security guard was also shot. the attack, which mirrors what happened at the Weeknd's manager's place. It's almost like there was some type of get back playing at this with this whole situation, feeling like a serious case of eye for eye to forward to. Well, naturally people started pointing fingers, and the initial rumor mill had Kendrick Lamar as the prime suspect behind the drive-by. But this wasn't exactly far-fetched of a theory, because Drake and Kendrick are locked in as one of the most intense rap beefs in recent memory. And with the tension between them already...
Following breaking news, a security guard has been shot in Encino, and we now know the home has ties to the artist The Weeknd. Scott Reif live in Air 7 HD with details. Scott.
Yep, Rachel, this is the home in question. Now, you see the emblem there on the basketball court. That's a record label of The Weeknd. And then you see the guard shack. You see a chair that's toppled over. And then you see what appear to be evidence markers. Those could be shell casings. We don't know for sure. We can't tell with our camera. But we can tell they're investigating in the back of the home. LAPD officers are here. About 2:45 this morning, there was a shooting. The security guard was shot. Transported. Condition is unknown. So it's unclear right now if the security guard was shot during some sort of attempted robbery or burglary into the home, or if that security guard had been targeted here. We'll open up a little bit out of this shot and show you. It's reportedly a $12 million home that is believed to be owned by a music industry executive with ties to The Weeknd.
But as it turns out, Kendrick was quickly cleared of any involvement in the hit on Drake's house. All the evidence pointed elsewhere. And before long, all eyes shifted to The Weeknd. People started whispering that the drive-by was some sort of revenge for the earlier incident at Cash's house, possibly orchestrated by The Weeknd himself. The timing was too coincidental, and the connection seemed undeniable. We've never really heard anything about the beef after that, and it seemed like with both hits, the scores were even. But it looks like The Weeknd was still in a petty mood, because he just reheated the beef with Drake. See, Drake didn't attend the Grammys this year, and we weren't expecting The Weeknd to even show up. This was the longest time, and he accused them of unfair practices and discrimination, and has held his stance clear. While the Recording Academy finally reached out to him to apologize, the chief executive officer of the Academy said, "I remember waking up to the headlines that The Weeknd called out the Academy for the lack of transparency in our awards. He went so far as to announce he was boycotting the Grammys. That made for some interesting reading over breakfast. But you know what, criticism is okay. I heard him. I felt his conviction. We all want as an organization dedicated to the well-being of all music makers, and one that reflects the entire music community, for now and for future generations. So over the past few years, we've listened." Where Drake's two biggest ops also had a great night, it was a major L for Drake. I mean, he even had his own label turning against him, because Big Lucien Gier, who was the CEO of Universal Records, celebrated Kendrick's win by giving Dre a whole high-five music. Needless to say, the entire world has been clowning Drake, and according to an insider, The Weeknd has been watching it all go down. His dislike of Drake still runs deep. And he even dissed Drake on his new album in the song "I Can't Wait to Get There." He said, "'Cause the media had it when they can never control us, and my enemies hate it 'cause I own my soul. I know that with scary situations I had nowhere to live in high school dropout chilling with academics." He said the media had it when they never can control us well. This was a reference to Drake trying to control him when he was working with OVO and trying to own the rights to the work that The Weeknd did at the label. He also made a reference to his house getting shot up, saying, "And they try to F and kill me, spreading misinformation, trying to pay me a villain, 'cause I did it to myself, man. This business life is pimping. Not they trying to F and kill them." Oh, needless to say, the beef between these two is not ending anytime soon. But y'all, I got to know what you think about this drama that's bubbling. Drop your thoughts and comments below, and then check out this next video.